I'm Raud, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights in Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. All right, I'm going to show you something. I'm actually stalling. I'll tell you why in a second. I want to see if you guys, I know this is not really professional, but I wouldn't plan on doing this. But hey, we're a family here, right? We enjoy these little sidekicks or side quirks. Have you guys seen some of the automation, some of the advertising and some of the stuff I put out there? This is one of the latest ones. Hang on. Yeah, so I did that for you guys because you guys are standing. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay, the young man is entered. Hang on a second. I think I'm here. Hey, Tim, hang on a second. I had to kind of start some things and I was screwing around with the audience a little bit there so I could waste time, and it worked out perfect. I see you. You can't hear. You can hear me, but you can't talk yet. Not on purpose. I'm not punishing. I'm not a brutal man. Hey, Tim's here. We do a lot of work on AI and automation and the way that the world is moving. He lives in Canada, has done a lot of stuff in Canada. Very support. Wow, people jumped right on. Cool. Hey guys, how you doing? If you didn't see the beginning of the show, go back and after the intro with Barbie and I that we do every day, look, I did a phone thing. That the family in there is my granddaughter and my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law. I hate the word daughter-in-law though. She's so cool, so good for them. And so at the end of the day, he's done a lot of work in this. I think it's over 20 years now, Tim. If I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to do a little bit of a lead in here because we kind of got tangled up a little bit there, and I'm a little off step here, and we're going to jump right in because he's a lot smarter than I am, and I want you guys to stick around. So as you know, we bring on experts, and you know what? That's an expert right there. Hey, Tim, how you doing, man?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I knew you were in Canada. I know this may be weird, but I love accents. I just freaking love the way people talk. And you have what part of Canada are you located?
So I'm located in Ottawa in Canada, but I'm a Brit originally, so I'm from the UK.
That's where it is. I knew it was awful strong for a Canadian accent.
Yeah, but I've been
here
long enough. Yeah, when I go back to the UK, everyone says I sound Canadian, and then when I'm here, everyone says I sound British, so I'm kind of in the middle.
Yeah, well, no, that's all good. It works for you, man. I love that. I love that accent, that influence to words, you know?
Right.
It always gives you a little bit more Me, I don't have any credibility to begin with. And then you add to that I'm a bullish American. So I have a lot. I just hit that. So when I hear an accent like yours, man, it starts my day off good. So Tim, let's talk. We didn't get a chance to talk too much in the green room. Wow, people are flying in. We got like 90 people on here already. There'll be a lot of questions. So this ought to be actually a pretty easy show. They're probably going to run it if I know them, which I do. They ask a lot of really smart questions. The ones that come on are interested in that subject, right? You today. And we've got it going. So I get really hyped up. I was talking to producer Barbie earlier, and I get so excited about this stuff. Sometimes I can't even sleep. Like last night, I woke up at 1 a.m. thinking about the show. So Tim, ease my pain, cover my bullishness, and start from the beginning. So you're in a tech business, obviously, wills and estate planning, very, very, very important stuff. You've been interviewed by a lot more important people than us. So I'm honored that you're here with us today, and I appreciate that. So we always obviously, we want to where that business started and how it's going, and all those details. But we really like to hear. You could go back to being born. I wouldn't. I don't know, but somewhere in that period, you were directed towards this path, this business, this co-founding of your business. Give us the picture. We got you. By the way, you don't have a hard stop or anything, do you?
No.
Okay, good. Because I have a feeling this might go past an hour. So, hey, the stage is yours, brother. Take it on.
Yeah. So it might not be a surprise to learn that wills was not always my passion. I didn't grow up thinking, I didn't want to. No, like I've always wanted to be in the
disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I thought the whole thing was when you were born, there was a will sitting on the table there, and from that moment on, your whole life was about. Oh, okay. So, what was your life? How did you get there?
Yeah, so I worked in high tech. I worked for a big company. It's actually a company called Nortel. So some people may have heard of it. Oh, you've heard of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
You know what, though?
Family-owned business?
Anybody under the age of 30 has never heard of this company.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But, and it's so funny, actually, because I have a neighbor who works for Shopify now, and he had a group of Shopify people came over, and nobody there had ever heard of Nortel. And I tried to give them like the story, and they were thinking, well, yeah, but we were at Shopify. And I'm thinking Shopify's kind of like Nortel. Like it was the darling of the tech industry at that time. And it doesn't necessarily last forever. And
it was the tissue. It was the Kleenex of tissues, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a company with, when I was there, 120,000 employees, making billions of dollars, and then laid everybody off in the period of 2-3 years. The bubble burst and everybody lost their jobs. So it can happen. 120,000 employees can lose their job, and before that happened, we kind of, myself and my co-founder, we saw the writing on the wall. So this is back in 2000, 2001.
Hold for a second there. Your co-founder. So I've seen that a lot. Is that a family? I mean, I'm just being nosy, Is that a family member, a friend from school? Is this a business partner you just organically came together kind of thing?
No, so we were both at Nortel. So we were both working there together.
I'm glad I asked that. There you go. Okay.
He was the tech guy and I was the business guy. And we worked on a product at Nortel together. But the story was that we used to go out every Friday after work, a group of about 15 of us, sitting around a table. And then one time somebody sat around and said, you know what? I don't have a will. And, I have a family and I have a decent job. I own a house, but I don't have a will. And we went around the table and not one single person out of the 15 of us around the table had a will. And we all knew that it was an important document. We all thought, we should, but why haven't we done it? Why hasn't any of us got around to doing it? We all had, jobs. We all worked at Nortel. We all had jobs. We were all doing well. And so at that time, 2001, 2002, it was a time where there was a dot-com boom at that time, and everybody was thinking of what can you put online? Like, how can the internet solve this problem? And immediately I started putting the ideas together with Henry, my co-founder, and we still actually 25 years later, Henry and I are still running the business. I'm the CEO, cool. He's the CTO.
That's cool.
So we still get on really well with each other. But at that time it was like, there's a problem here. Why haven't we got it? What are the barriers? What's the friction? Why is it not making it to the top of the to-do list? And so we started making some inquiries then, talking to some lawyers and saying, why is the process so convoluted? Or at that point, there were like blank form will kits that you could use, but they were really crappy. And we thought there's got to be a better way. And so we set off in 2001 to see if we could solve the problem.
Wow, what a great freaking story, man. And yes, you're absolutely right about it. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to go into the story, but I'm kind of caught up in something like that. My mom passed away a couple of years ago. Her husband, like third or fourth husband, became the executor, and that's all I'm going to say.
And I'm actually, so what's interesting, that most of the people who come to our service, not most, a good portion of people who come to our service, they say, you know what, my dad just died without a will. I am not going to put my family through what we've just been through. It was a nightmare, right? So I want to just make sure that my family's taken care of. So it usually takes somebody to experience a nightmare to make them realize I've got to do this for my family.
Yeah, and even when you do, you got to make sure it's done right. I'm on the other side of that. My mom, she's got like a $7 million estate, and I'm the only one. I have no idea where it is. I'm not kidding you. I mean, I know the buildings, but he shut down the company. It was paying the bills. A lot of shit there. Yeah. So it's important to do it right. And we're going to get to some questions. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the interesting part of that is that it's not just because usually when you write in your will, you say, I leave everything I own to, and to my
children. A and B trust.
Yeah.
It's an A and B trust.
Divide it equally between the children. And then the executor has to come in and figure out what did you own? Like, what are all your assets? Like, you have, an online account here, you have some Bitcoin there, absolutely. And you have all over the place. You have revenues coming in from your YouTube channel. Like, what are your assets, right?
Hold on. Did you hear him? Did you just hear him? Please. Okay, go ahead.
Right, but
I just had to shout out to God.
Right, but something happens to you. What's going to happen to that? Right? Who's going to? Is it all just going to get shut down, or is there value in that? So the executive's responsibility is to figure out what your assets are and gather them all up and then distribute them to the beneficiaries. So it's if you haven't taken care of documenting all of that, and people when they do it for themselves, they think, God, this is a tedious task, and I'm like. Yeah, imagine doing that for your brother-in-law. You have no idea what he owns, and you're the executive of his will. So
absolutely,
you'd never know whether you've got everything or whether things have gone undiscovered that you never knew about. And so that's one of the tools that we offer with our service. But
so you do the search kind of stuff? Is that what you mean?
No, what we do is we have a service that allows you to keep an online inventory of all of your assets, and then you can name key holders who can then log in and view your inventory of all of your assets and people to contact and things like that.
Okay, that's awesome. Because my biggest one of my many biggest weaknesses is keeping things organized. I mean, there's you've got, like you said, I've got that over there. I know where it is. I got that over there. I got that over there. But yeah, I mean, putting that down, especially online, because it doesn't get lost, right? I mean, everything now is going online. Before you respond, John has a great question here, if I may, Tim, do you mind?
Yeah.
What's the biggest myth people believe about writing a will? Because we're right in that right now, right? And by the way, I don't want to talk more about my situation. It's a family thing, not a will thing. There's buildings and company and a lot of stuff. I mean, $5 million of inventory in the company. So let's just move on from me, because I know I'm going to get myself in trouble if I go beyond that, Tim. I just wanted to emphasize the fact that one, you got to have one, and I have a copy of hers, and it's nothing like what she left for instructions that happened. It was all very detailed, but anyway, so to answer Tim's thing here before I have to apologize to a bunch of people.
Okay, so there are a ton of myths. I'm going to try my arbitrary biggest myth. This is the one I'm going to pick, is that people think that you write it just before you die, right? This is, you're going to put it off and put it off. And, people come to us and say, and my mom needs a will. Fortunately, I don't need a will yet.
Hey,
I'm going to
Tim,
do it
I'm
later.
sorry. I'm sorry. Can I stop you again real quick? I'm going to jump off. In other words, I'm going to be in the green room you were just in. We're going to trade places. There's a lot of questions here. I just want to go through them, and I don't want people, while you're making a great point, looking at my ear hole. It kind of ruins the whole vision. So I'm here. Don't worry. I'm here.
Okay.
But give me some time. Extend this out a bit, would you, brother?
I will indeed. Okay. So the biggest myth is thinking that you're only going to do it once in your lifetime, and thinking that you have to wait until the best time in your life to do it. And some people think, I'm going to do it just before I die. And we're really trying to change this idea that if you go to somebody and say, hey, I just went to US LegalWills and I wrote my will, and all your friends and family saying, oh my God, are you okay? Should we be worried? Why did you write your will? And really, writing a will is just a part of responsible financial planning. Like you take out life insurance, you have investments, you put a retirement plan in place, and you write your will and your other estate planning documents. So you should absolutely write it as soon as you're an adult. Like when you're 20 years old, you should be writing your will. And then
keeping track of those things.
Yeah. And you update it throughout your life as your circumstances change. It's not a once in a lifetime thing. And it's not something you do just before that bus comes around the corner and hits you.
Oh, crap. Hey, watch it. Okay. I'm good. I'm inside. So I'm safe right now. At least unless something falls. And great point, though. You're right. I mean, tomorrow is not promised, right? So doing this is very, very, very important. And I think you've hit a spark here. We're climbing up to 400 people here now. How does obviously, I think a lot of people believe what you're saying. And I think a lot of people are like, oh shit, I'm supposed to do that already? So you got a lot of really, really, really good questions here.
Absolutely.
How does LegalWills, and this is really interesting. This is an interesting question. I'm sure it's a very easy answer. It should be the same legal, but it being online, how does it legally valid across the provinces?
So it is
much
not
less
a simple
anywhere
question.
else.
It is not a simple. It's a simple question. It's not a simple answer. Every state and every province and every jurisdiction, they have different laws surrounding wills. So this question actually refers to digital wills. And there's a whole story here. So the law around wills that determines what a will is and what it is not, what the legal standing of a will is, goes back hundreds of years. Like in England, it's 1837. The law was written. This is a will. In 1837, it must be written on paper. It must be signed in ink. It must be signed in the presence of two witnesses. And that really never changed. And that was the same across all US states and all Canadian provinces. But what happened was, and when we started LegalWills back in 2001, we thought digital signatures was going to be a cool thing. And that was going to come around and we would all be signing our wills digitally. But it never happened until COVID hit. And then COVID hit. And then suddenly, the law realized, well, you can't sign in the presence of two witnesses. You can't go within 6 feet of a witness. You can't leave your house, right? You certainly can't go to a lawyer's office. So the law actually changed to allow like remote witnessing and online signing. And it was put in as a temporary measure for COVID. And then what happened is afterwards, a lot of jurisdictions went back to the 1830 law, but some pushed it on and said, you know what, electronically sign the document, electronic store it. It makes much more sense. And so currently in the US, it's like dominoes toppling. I think there's like 9 US states that are allowing digital signing and storage of wills, but it's coming through more frequently now. Like I almost look on a monthly basis. Another state adopts a digital signing and storage law. In Canada, one province allows it in BC. So digital wills are accepted in some jurisdictions, but in other jurisdictions, it still needs to be printed, put on a piece of paper, signed in ink, and stored in a file.
Yeah, I had no idea that would be the case. But you said it's moving that direct. It started in COVID, so that was what, 8 years ago, something like that. 9 years ago.
No.
Four years of Trump, 4 years of Biden, and now another. It started right away in 2020. Oh, so it's
4 years.
I don't know. I have no idea, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
I don't really care anymore.
But what's funny is that, so those jurisdictions that rolled it back, it's like a piece of paper. Like, so if you die in a house fire or a hurricane or a flood, any natural disaster, you've died, your will's gone with you. Right? And nobody has any will that they can use to handle your estate. So it just makes so much sense to digitally sign it. So the other point is back in the day, the best way of proving your identity was by scrawling an ink signature. Oh, that's definitely him. Look, you can tell from his signature. That's not the best way to prove your identity. It was in 1837. It's not now. So it makes far more sense to digitally sign it, encrypt it, and put it in the cloud. So hopefully that's going to be adopted more widely than it is now.
Well, I'm surprised it's not more, but at this point, but absolutely, like you said, it's kind of going that way. Would you say 9 states in the U.S., one province, yes, one province, no, in Canada, and then whatever is going on with those folks over there across the pond.
Yeah, in the UK, they're just now discussing it. They have a pilot trial and things like that. But I tell you, it's interesting. You touched on something here. So you're surprised it's not. And we just happen to fall into an industry that is so slow to change. They're so slow to
the tech. The will industry. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. The legal. Yeah.
Lawyers are still faxing each other, right? It is old school. So if you go into a law firm and say, "Can I digitally sign this and encrypt it and put it up in the cloud?" They're not going to know what the heck you were talking about. So it was super fortunate for us that we competed in an industry that was so slow. And there's been other disruptors that have come into that industry, but the law firms themselves, they're not super quick at adopting new technology.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I want to get to this question here, but I'm still stunned. Especially, I mean, a lot of our shows. Have you watched any of the shows at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we talked about in 2 and 4 and encourage and empower and relay information to the great middle class of America and by extension, of course, the world. I mean, you're our brother here. So,
thanks.
But I mean, we all have the same sort of issues, right? If I'm married and have kids, and you're a Canadian next door and married and have kids, we have the same thing going on. Yep. I mean, it's not like the middle class is unique to America. Yep. It's unique in a lot of ways, but we talk a lot about that. One of the things we're really starting to talk a lot about now, and actually we ought to maybe. Let me finish this thought. We talk a lot about AI and automation. I do a lot of it. I'm sure you've seen it on the show. Now we're actually rolling out a class for teaching people. It started out me thinking about it. I got a lot of gray hair here, right? And do you remember? Well, you were in the .com. Remember when the cell phones started? They were like, you had to hold them like this, but that was the first cell phone. And then dial-up internet came, and then I guess digital internet came. Now we're at like 3.0, 3.5 on the new web. And the whole world is going there. So we're teaching a class, especially for small businesses, but then you take it home, because what is it, 5-10 years from now at most, everything's going to be digital. I mean, the world will not look the same in 10 years than it does now. And back when the internet happened, that first digital boom, I mean, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Computers on every desk at home, and that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But the people that didn't know it, couldn't get their arms around it, were separated from society, kind of like the lawyers you're talking about, because they didn't utilize or know, and they could not communicate the way the rest of their family was and all that stuff. So I'm surprised as hell that there's, like what you said, 9 states in the United States. That's it.
Yeah, because it has to go through, different levels of courts, and now it goes through. So the lawyers have to write the laws and agree to it, and it's not working in their favor.
That's the problem right there. That's
Absolutely.
the problem right there.
Yeah, why would they? Right? Because they kind of like the idea
against them.
They like the idea of somebody coming to their office, talking to them, and charging them $1,200 for a will. Right. So why would they try and streamline this process? It's not really in the best interest. And they're always, I mean, you've only got to look at the wording in a will. It's made artificially complicated and archaic so that you don't understand it and you think you've got value for money out of that $1,200 because they've said, wherefore art thou here under the will I bequest and bequeath, and it's all like Shakespearean language.
Oh my God, yes, Shakespeare. Yeah.
And the reason is you walk out and say, "Wow, I could never have written that. That was well worth $1,200." Right? It doesn't have to be that way.
No, that's insane. What they are going to have to do, because no matter what, there's going to, I don't know. It's not an uproar at this point. It's just going to be that way. I mean, lawyers are going to have to be digital, or everybody's job's going to change a little bit. But
So
I never.
So sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, but
no, we're both really excited right now. Go ahead.
Excited about wills.
Hey.
Yeah. So right now, the process, the old school traditional process is you walk into a lawyer's office and they say, okay, so are you married? Do you have children? And who do you want to be the executor? And do you want to leave everything to your spouse? And if the spouse doesn't survive you, leave that to your children. Okay, let me just AI can do that. AI can totally do that. And if it can't do it exactly right today, give it a few weeks, give it a few months. It's going to happen, right? So we know.
No. Hold on. Oh, whoa. I like doing that. Sorry. There is AI. If it doesn't quite get it right, you tell it what to change. Now it's no code AI or low code AI. I use a lot of no code AI because I'm old and don't write code. And but sometimes I'll have something done, like a document, like a will. Let's say I'm writing the will and say, hey, this is what I had, and it's not quite right. You just tell it to make that change, or it asks you at the end, would you like me to do this, or this instead? AI is already there, man, to be able to do that.
And the pushback right now, as we sit here now in June 2025, is this sense that you may not know that there's an error in your will. You may not know that it's screwed up the trust clause, right? Okay. So, and so we're kind of at the...
It's on to what he's saying here, right?
I'm sorry?
It's getting on to what Clive's saying here, what you're kind of working into, right?
Well, yeah. So
go on.
Whether AI can 100% with confidence knock out 10,000 wills and not screw one up, and know, and for that individual who got theirs screwed up, knowing that theirs was the one that got screwed up, they might not necessarily know. So there's a consequence to screwing up somebody's will. Now, that's not to say lawyers don't screw up wills. They do, absolutely. So you can have, there's a number of ways that a will can be screwed up. And we've seen celebrity wills that they're the ones that hit the headlines, and they get a lot of publicity because they were done really badly and it didn't make any sense. But there are many wills because sometimes people might go into a lawyer's office and say, I need my will. And the lawyer says, well, you know what? I only really do property transactions, but I'll give it a go. I think I should be able to do a will. That happens all the time.
Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't know when you go into a lawyer's office whether you're getting the person who came bottom of their graduating class or top of the graduating class. You don't know.
Good point.
It's possible you're not guaranteed if you go into a lawyer's office that it's going to necessarily be bulletproof, but you certainly don't with AI, because with right now, and don't get me wrong, it's going to change. It's going to be the de facto way of getting it done. And it already is, interestingly, with things like landlord-tenant agreements, other legal forms, like a recording license, there are, a release form, things like that. There are things that AI can knock out a form, no problem, like a non-disclosure,
business,
things like that.
Non-disclosure, operating agreements, operating procedures. They're already doing that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's not that far.
It's not legal though. That's true. You're right. I never. Yeah.
And we remember when we went to a lawyer to get a non-disclosure agreement written up. And they come back and charge us $500 for a 2-page agreement, and now we're getting the same thing done by AI. And lawyers will all of us are going to be trying to defend our position against AI, right? And lawyers are no different. Lawyers are going to say it can't replace me, it can't do what I do. So maybe it can't right today, it will.
Yeah, they're going to lose that argument, aren't they?
Yeah. And
so are they as secure? They're probably more secure, except for what you're talking about right now, right?
So secure is, you can look at it a number of different ways. So the storage of the will, secure storage of the will online, encrypted in the cloud, that's secure. And you know what? The number of people who come to us and say, it's that idea of, I don't want to use my credit card online. Can I give you the number over the phone? And it's like, I think we've moved past that a little bit, knowing that
way past
cloud storage of data encrypted. We're good. That's fine. So storing it in the cloud encrypted is secure, as secure as storing it into a lawyer's office. The difference is in the cloud, as I mentioned, a natural disaster is not going to go with it, whereas your lawyer's office, it will. The other important point about storing it with a lawyer's office is, does your family know where it is? We get that all the time. Like, my dad had a will, he wrote a will, we don't know where it is. What can we do? Well, if you don't know where it is, you might as well not have one. You've got to find it. And if you don't know which law firm he wrote it with, start with Abernathy and Co. and work your way through to Zacharias, and try and find which law firm's got it. And it's brutal. You can't do much else about it.
No, you can't. And that's where things really get nasty, because you work your whole life to leave something for the next generation, that legacy, not just a legacy. Well, obviously mostly a legacy of who you are and why your family is there. But then there's the additional legacy of pride and pleasure of, I'm going to bring on my work and bring that to you, and hopefully it carries on, kind of thing. That's so big of a deal. And when that stuff happens, everything changes, man. It's now chaos.
Yeah, I think it's also,
probation is chaos.
We can get into that idea. Yeah, get into that idea of like your digital legacy as well, like all of the things that are online, and what do you want happening to those things. Every year I get this person's celebrating their 10th anniversary at this company on LinkedIn. Give them congratulations. I'm like, dude, that person died 8 years ago. Why do you keep sending me a reminder that they're reaching their work anniversary? So somebody's got to go in there and take care of that account because that person has died. And what do you want to happen to your Instagram feed and your YouTube videos and your digital footprint, which is out there now? Do we want our children, our grandchildren, do we want that passed down? Who's going to be maintaining it for us? Who's going to look after it for us? So that's a new part of our legacy that was never really dealt with in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. And now it's really important because our digital lives are a big part of the story being able to be told about us. Before we had pictures, we had some video stuff, the cameras, and that told the story. And generations later, people had scrapules of things, like I've got my mom, my dad, all that stuff there. And that's a story of why I'm here now today. Yeah. Digital takes that to another level. I never thought about taking care of that. That's
what's funny? Like if you go, I've just thought, like on ancestry.com, you go back a couple of levels in your family tree and there's a grainy photo. Yet on our level, there's 3 terabytes of data for this person. Like their digital footprint, that's this person. So we're kind of like, we may have more than we need.
It's a little bit of a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
This guy Branson here, he's a regular on the show, very smart guy. And several times he's become my new best friend because he asks really cool ass questions. Yeah. What are some of the unique features of LifeLocker? Yeah. Okay, he knows something I don't know. Yeah. I do my research, but I don't know about LifeLocker. That traditional matters.
So LifeLocker. Yeah, LifeLocker was the tool I was talking to you about, where you can list all of your assets and inventory and your bank account numbers and people to contact and all of that. And really, this is a digital, like, only open this envelope at the appropriate time. Don't open it. If I don't come out of surgery, you can open the envelope. But if I do come out of surgery, don't open the envelope. It's got some stuff in there. Right? And so LifeLocker is really like digitizing that process. And one of the best parts of it is it has a gatekeeping part to it. So a key holder can apply to log in to view it, and it's unlocked but not visible. It sits there unlocked for like a period of time until you've had an opportunity to do something about it. But it's a secure envelope with all of your information that can never be viewed before the appropriate time that it can be viewed. So there's a few one thing is it's structured. It makes sure everything's covered. You're going to include your utilities, your subscriptions, and all the things that the executive needs to cancel. So it's very detailed in making sure that everything's covered. But most importantly, it can only be viewed and accessed at the appropriate time and not before.
What does that look like? I mean, somebody has to have the key or the code or what the password, right? That's right. So what hey, I have this. Do not look at it unless I don't come back from surgery. Yeah. But that person has to have that key, right? If nobody has the key, then there's a thing there, right?
You name key holders. You assign key holders and they're given a unique key holder ID, and then that key holder logs in with the key holder ID. Then you're notified and said, just to let you know, Branson Hill has just logged in and he's trying to view your LifeLocker.
I was talking good about you, Branson, and now you go pull something like that off. Come on, dude. What's up with you?
Right. And so you're then like day after day after day, it's, this person, if you don't relock this, then this person is going to become visible to this person. And after the period of time that you determine, like 7 days or whenever, after 7 days, then it becomes available to them. And you're told at that point. So yeah, if you don't relock it, they're going to get to it.
So that's really interesting. A point I heard, but now I just kind of connected some dots there. So you can assign whatever, let's say it's 3 key holders. Yeah. And they each have a unique, so you know which one it is, right? Yeah. And then when they go to unlock, when they go into it, it's not visible yet. It's unlocked, but it's not visible. And you set how long it stays like that until so you have time to say, "Whoa, dude, wait a minute here," or not.
Yeah, and
wow,
different,
okay, that's cool.
different services have different time periods. So, for example, your funeral wishes, you might have a couple of days. You don't want to set that to a month. Like, say in a month, oh, by the way, I wanted to be cremated. Like, yeah, that's too late.
Yeah.
So there's different services have different lock time periods, and you set those. But LifeLocker specifically, 7 days would seem reasonable unless you're going on a 30-day trek to Mongolia. Change it to 30 days before you go, but that's the period of time that you would set so that it doesn't get viewed prematurely. But bearing in mind, these key holders are supposed to be people you trust. They shouldn't be meddling in. They shouldn't be going in there looking at stuff they shouldn't look at.
No, they shouldn't. It may happen, but they shouldn't.
Yeah.
LegalWills, you planning to use AI in the future? We've already kind of danced on this a little bit, and the answer is yes. But do you mind, Dick? Great question. Do you mind expanding on that for him?
Yeah. So it's the way it can be used. So we use it already in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
We use it in a chat bot. We have an AI chat bot answering questions. So people say, "Oh, I'm 16. Can I write a will?" Or "Can my executor be a witness?" Or "Can my So people ask generic questions. Our chat bot AI can answer all those questions. So we use it there. We actually also use an AI auto attendant, a voice AI system for people who call into our support line, and we front end it with AI for the same reason, because we get asked the same questions over and over and over again. So our AI voice auto attendant can answer those questions. For the most part now, people don't really realize they're talking to an AI bot, but they are. But if it's not answered, if people have specific questions about their account, then it can be forwarded to a live human being who can then answer that. So we use it there. Where we will be using it, it's not super secret, because I'm sure all of the online services are looking at ways of doing that. But I think we're going to be front ending our service with an AI avatar to do what we talked about earlier. It's like, okay, so you're married, you have 2 children. What do you want to happen to your estate? Have a natural language AI, and then it's going to go into our software and prepare your will for you and give you the will. So AI is not writing.
Does it record that? Does it record that those responses as well? Your bot?
Yeah, because AI is not going to actually write the will. We're using AI to gather the information, put it into our software, and prepare the will for them using our software.
Totally get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, so
and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we don't believe right now that AI is reliable enough to write everybody's will for them, but our software is. So we can use it to gather data and write the will using our software. We're happy with that.
All right, dude, you've driven it into me enough, Tim. I know with that AI isn't there yet. You can't just tell it to do something. Okay, I get it. Well, did I lose my? Can you talk for a second? I'm on. All right. I get it. Yeah, no, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. But you think within like 5 years it's going to be there, and probably at that time it's going to be a lot more prevalent. It won't be 9 states.
Yeah, the one thing I would say in all of my years of working in tech, and it's been a while now, I've never seen. Sorry,
you're a front runner. I mean. Back then, that was really that next level of tech, and you started there,
right? But I've in all my years, I've never seen anything like AI. Like in terms of like the frequency that it blows my mind, and how quickly a new thing comes out. And you could listen to me as a podcast guest 6 months ago, and it sounds like that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It was great 6 months ago. Like it was amazing then.
That's the sad part. Yeah.
But so it moves so fast. And so you say 5, it's not going to be 5 years. It could be 6 months, 9 months. It's going to be fast before it comes.
Wow. So not even 5 years from now.
No, I don't. It moves super fast.
Yeah. No, I totally get you there, man. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Amy's got a question here that everybody's going to be using this, obviously. Now, the younger people need to be educated. Don't get hit by that bus before, you start that process.
Yeah.
And the older people are at the point where that needs to be done. They're a little bit more mature. They're a little bit more, but yeah. So what do you think moving forward? It'll probably be everybody, right? Within whatever time.
So there's definitely a comfort level amongst younger people using
Absolutely.
online tools.
Absolutely.
And when we started, you think back 2001, we were asking people to type in personal information into our website. And back then there was clearly, we were on the very bleeding edge of this new technology. So we were probably ahead of our time back then, and the world wasn't ready for what we were offering. But certainly now, young people, you can use our service on your phone. Like, you can write your will on your iPhone. You're not writing it, but you're entering the information on your iPhone, and then you're going to get your document emailed to you. So young people, super happy. They can probably type it out even looking at their phone, very comfortable doing that.
I told you I was jumping off to look at messages, but what I was really doing was I was writing my will.
Good. You know what? You could have had it done. If you started at the beginning of this show, you could have had it done by the end.
I'm going to hit send pretty soon. You'll see it. Go ahead.
So we do get a big cross section. We get people from 18 to 88. Like, we do get the whole thing. And there's clearly, people, we do get 90-year-olds who are perfectly comfortable using our website and going through it.
100%.
Right. The sweet spot for us is clearly like 35 to 50. They're married, they have young children, they realize they've got to name a guardian for their children. Oh, we need a will. So they're the type of people who are more likely to use our service than go to a traditional lawyer. But it's across the board. So we have a sweet spot in the middle, but it's across the board. Hopefully a service like ours is encouraging younger people to think about being responsible.
Thank you, Amy. That was well put. Tim, thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And that makes a sense kind of where people are in that digital comfort level space. And you're right. You had to have been way ahead of your time you started this probably, I don't know, a couple decades before anybody even thought about life going in that direction.
You know, right? What happened? Something that was huge for us, incidentally, was that we had our will service, but then tax software went online, and tax software gave people a familiarity and a comfort level with going and putting financial interactions online, and that all of a sudden normalized that process. So it was almost like, and that's a lesson to people starting businesses, that we couldn't push people to use our service if the comfort level wasn't there, and it took another industry almost to help give our service credibility.
And it's interesting you use that example, because people naturally don't want to do that, the estate planning but every year they got to get those darn taxes in. And so that push was something that helped you in that great point you put there. Ronalda here is one of the show's friends. She's very intelligent, and we communicate digitally. It's a digital friend. Do you go over taxes while setting up the will? I like this, because there is a death tax and all that crap.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So
it is. Yeah.
So there's, so we don't give legal advice in our service. We're front ending our service, and we're giving people the tools to write their own will. In the same way as we don't give people tax advice, we don't give people financial advice or estate planning advice or anything like that, right? So there are things that you can do to maximize the inheritances going to your loved ones. There's ways you can structure your estate to make it more beneficial to your loved ones. We don't get involved in restructuring your estate or anything like that. And that is a highly professional job. So you need a will. Everybody needs a will. you may benefit from some estate planning advice in terms of the way you structure, set up a family trust. Should you put some offshore assets there? Like, you can do all of that, but that's not what we do.
How does that get entered then? Is
So
there
you
a
don't
handshake somewhere in that LifeLock? Is there a handshake in there?
Yeah, so certainly you can put it in LifeLocker, but that information typically doesn't fall into your will. It's actually one of the misconceptions in your will is you don't write down everything you own in your will. You're typically just saying, I'm leaving my estate, whatever my estate happens to be, to these beneficiaries. But you don't get bogged down in saying, I mean, you can, if you want to leave a specific asset to a particular individual, you can do that. Totally. You can say, my, signed Jimi Hendrix guitar, I want to leave that to my nephew. My wife doesn't want it anyway.
This was left specifically to me by my son's mother's father. Great guy.
Very cool. And that, you know what? That is one of the powers of a will. You can make
I've never taken it off.
I see wills as a real opportunity to not only do like heirlooms and things like that and give meaningful things to meaningful people, but also things like charitable bequests. Is there a charity that's touched your life and say, you know what, I haven't been able to be as charitable during my lifetime as I maybe should have been because things were tight, but I don't mind leaving them 5% of my estate after I've gone. And that can make a big difference to that charity. So it's a real opportunity. Sure. And the reason I think of that is Aretha Franklin is a great example of somebody who didn't do this right. She hand scrawled a bunch of wills, left them all around, down the side of her sofa. It was a nightmare. $80 million estate that is just now being frittered away in legal fees. And she didn't create a foundation for young musicians in Detroit, the Aretha Franklin scholarships. She could have done all of her memorabilia is now just being sold off to who knows who. And so the estate's being liquidated, and there was no thought as to her legacy by her. She didn't even think about what she could have done. And if she'd written a will, she could have done something really meaningful. And you don't have to have an $80 million estate. Any of us can do something meaningful with our will. I got off the topic of the question.
Oh, hell no. That was Ronaldo, close your ears for a second. That was better than the question. All right. Hi, Ronaldo. Come on back in. Yeah. So that was awesome. And now you can kind of roll into Ronaldo's question as well, because here we are. There's a lot of questions around this. There's a lot of people who don't know anything about this. Not even just that it's digital, but the whole thing. I mean, you're opening up doors that, Aretha Franklin never thought about. And there's 8 billion people on the earth. At least 100 or 2 need this information, right? And
you know what?
And here we go.
65% of U.S. adults do not have a will. They should have. I said that. 65%. So yeah, and it doesn't surprise me that people don't understand it, because there's a lot of things in my life that I don't understand. I don't understand, which car battery I need. It's just not something I'm into, right? And I don't expect people to be really fascinated by wills, but people need them. So I never, when people come and say, what's an executor? What's I don't understand all this. Obviously, we're only doing it for the first time, and hopefully you're going to update it. But I don't expect people to know all of these legal terms. But the basic, and one thing that we do, and using an online service, does actually educate you. Like, you step through and it gives you information as you go through. It's like, who do you want to be the executor? Here's some things to think about. This is what your executor is going to have to do. Make sure that you pick someone who's good with working with iOS. Make sure you're appointing someone who does get on with the family. And these are things to consider. Guardians for your children. Who are you going to pick as a guardian for your children if something were to happen to you and the other parent, right? these are some of the things you might want to consider. So it is an education process that we do with an online service that you wouldn't necessarily get certainly if you're going into a law office or trying to do it yourself.
That makes a hell of a lot of sense. Absolutely. Did we roll through this one yet for David? Have we gotten, that, because it is a legal issue, but what you guys are doing are kind of handshaking them back off and forth to each other, right? I mean,
I would say that what we're doing though is it's a good question, because we are a tech company. I believe we're a tech company. We're not a law firm.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
So,
no. Yeah.
We are usually the first to innovate. Come up with how can we do this better? Like how can we make sure we get the information that the executor needs in their hand at the time they need it? We're going to come up with a solution. The digital signing, we're going to come up with the solution. Storing it in the cloud. So we are, online services are the ones who are always trying to make this better and make it easier and make sure that the old traditional flaws in the system, which are many, there are big flaws in the way it works right now. 100%. We're going to try and solve those. So yeah, it's serious, but I believe that the legal industry is just too slow. They're too slow. So we balance that by, yes, we're respecting the law, but we're always going to be the first ones to innovate.
Yeah. And literally your industry, when you first said that first part of the statement, when you were talking that, instantly I thought of entrepreneurs, that mindset, that always looking to be able to, hey, I see something that can be, your industry is entrepreneurship at it. I mean, I don't know how to say that. Not just the people, that industry drives on the thing you just said. And I laughed earlier when you were talking a couple of minutes ago when I brought Richard's message up here, because here we go again. Everybody is looking at how do we put all that together? I mean, look at the blockchain. I mean, now we're getting into some crypto, you mentioned earlier, I got crypto here. And so there, I sorry, it just took me like, let's just talk about AI all day. The will thing is, we're just going to talk about AI. So how do you handle the blockchain? Or so is that another one we're still working on?
You know what? I would say a couple of years ago, it was super on everybody's minds. We were really thinking about what the impact was going to be around blockchain. In the same way as, NFTs, like it was like the hottest thing ever, and it kind of like fizzled a little bit.
For about a minute.
Yeah. So blockchain's almost like it's being taken off the front page because of AI. And so I've got to admit, we've not talked about blockchain for quite some time because we've been, talking about how AI is going to impact us. So I haven't had this question for a while. And so I can't give you a good answer. I would say right now it's not on the next thing to be done for us.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because, well, I'll use us as an example. I'll give myself our show a little shout out, a little advertising, inside advertising. So we did our first live broadcast on Constitution Day. There was a story behind that. We wanted to pick between Grandparents' Day or Constitution Day. One's the Sunday after the next. So we picked Constitution Day because makes sense that we talk a lot about that. But out of the 220, I think we're at 215, something like that, episodes now. We've done probably, this really isn't I hope it doesn't sound as self-pitchy as it seems like it sounds, but we've done probably 30 AI related shows and more and more, and it'll be 50 next week or kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's starting to really be all that. Out of that time, whatever those numbers are, early on we had one blockchain discussion, and it was fascinating. And we've done 30 cents and never come up. But AI, you said it. You're talking about AI all the time. It's a great question, Richard, and you're way on topic, because there's things that can make you come back, but it's.
I tell you what, after this call, I'm going to go back and talk to a tech guy and say, hey, what are we doing with blockchain? I've just been reminded about it. So, yeah.
Dang, you guys, what do you get your act together? Hey,
yeah.
Oh, your partner's the tech guy. You're the business guy.
I'm the business guy. Yeah. Otherwise, I would have had a good answer for you.
All right. Clip this out. We run live, so it's already out there. When clip this out and say, "Hey, partner, what the WTF?" No.
Okay.
So how often should somebody update their will through their LegalWills?
Yeah. So wills should be updated every time there's a change in your life. So obviously you get married, you have children, you have an inheritance of your own, you inherit $5 million. That's the time to go in there and think about updating your will. And also, if there's a change in circumstance to any.
Oh, shit.
So, okay?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to be smooth here, and I just went down my own freaking rabbit hole. Gosh darn it. I was trying to just come out because we got a bunch of new questions, and I'm clicking, and I went, boop. I saw you leave. I went, oh.
Okay. I was still talking, even though
Go on. I know. Go back, rewind, clip back a couple of minutes,
okay,
or a couple seconds, and then
okay.
we'll start over.
So anytime, like you've named a whole bunch of people in your will as well. So anytime there's a change in their circumstance, so you may have named somebody to be the guardian of your children, and they've emigrated to Australia. Maybe they're not the best choice anymore. Or you've named somebody to be the executor, and they're now got dementia. They're not the best person anymore. So anytime anybody named in your will has a change of circumstance, that's the time to update your will. But certainly anytime your circumstances change as well. So, and even if you can't think of anything, just take a look at it every couple of years. There's a great story. A friend of mine, I asked him whether he had a will. I tend to do that now. I say, oh, by the way, have you got a will? And
I ask everybody I see, have you seen the show?
Yeah,
I feel you, brother. Everybody. People don't catch my eye anymore sometimes.
So I said to him, he said, yeah, I have a will, but I haven't updated it since the girls were born. It's a good point. I haven't done it since the girls were born. And I said, dude, your girls are 31 and 28. I mean, since the girls were born, like, you got to look at that will again. So, yeah, people do, having an out-of-date will is worse than not having a will at all.
You know, it's interesting. I just thought about when you said that the girls are 31 and 28. There's a lot of commercials out there, and we all know, what is it? You getting insurance, life insurance? So in case when you pass, right? So that's a lot more of a thought for people that they need to carry that. It's an asset. But, I was just thinking when you said that, I go, wait a minute. Okay, that's true. It's an asset. But what is your assets when you pass on those same family members will not depend on, but depend on, right? I never thought about that priority should be at the same kind of level. If I die tomorrow and my 400 kids can't get any food, oh shit, I said that out loud. My kids can't get enough food, but then when I pass, that's the same issue, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
you know what? It can. So this can be done on a macro level and a macro level and a micro level. So yeah, absolutely. A macro level, what's going to happen to your house, all of that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Go down to the micro level and think of, does everyone know the Wi-Fi password? Does everybody know the combination to this thing? And how does you know, think of somebody's now got to pick up the pieces. You're gone, right? So and we hear that all the time, like a spouse, and it doesn't, traditionally you say, oh, the wife doesn't know. It can be, my wife does a ton of stuff in my house. I have no idea, like the bills that are paid and things like that. I have no idea. And they're not all mailed to the house now. They're all done online. So I need the online access to pay our utility bills. I don't know any of that stuff. So, all of this kind of stuff has to be captured somewhere so that if something happens to you, your loved one has a chance to be able to, because they're grieving anyway. So they don't want to have to deal with all of that crap as well, right?
Well, it's not even don't want to have to. First of all, you said 60% of adults or Americans don't have a will.
65, yeah.
That's number 65% do not.
Yeah.
Okay. What we've talked a lot about, that's kind of not a really good decision on our part.
Yeah.
And then when you started talking about getting down to the micro level, the house is the macro level. When you started saying some of that stuff, I was like, producer Barbie does everything. We've been together 20 years. She lives in California. I live out here, but everything, like she keeps my passwords. I'm terrible with that stuff. I hate it. She has she's amongst many other things, the financial side of what we do here. And she runs the money. As a matter of fact, I don't want to touch it because I'm terrible about it. I love bringing it in. I just don't. That's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Talking bullshit is my wheelhouse. And laughing. I'm good at that thing. But that blew me away when you said that.
Yeah. I mean, most couples, I would say, most couples have their roles and responsibilities that kind of come together, right? And so if one of them goes, all of those roles and responsibilities have to be picked up by this other person. And usually, if it's a symbiotic relationship, then you hope that both sides have given the other person the information they need to pick up the pieces when one of them's gone. And so on that level, those things. But to your point as well, making sure that all of your assets are located and part of your estate.
I have no idea.
Right. And so make sure they're located and make sure you've determined who's going to receive what is one of the key parts of the will. Yeah.
Dude, I'm so glad we brought that back up, because back to my number of, you're correcting me again of the number 65 instead of 60%. See, people, I'm telling you, and this is why we have experts, because I say stuff around. I could maybe hit it with a grenade or something, but I just,
I'm
65% of people. No. This is my gig, man. I love effing with people, messing around with them, and as long as I'm not offensive, because it's fun. I hope it is. But anyway, my point was 65% of Americans don't have a will. So that leaves 35% that do. Out of that 35%, let me set that aside. What you talked about in a household, typically one person does that and another person does that. And sometimes they join together and do this. But somebody usually, and I think a lot of cases, it's the spouse, the wife, that does the numbers kind of thing. At least, I don't know, my own experience, but whatever that is, if that goes away, so you got 65% estate just goes flying around in the wind. Out of the 35%, how many deal with what you're talking about? Because it's got to be at least half. I've seen a couple of really, like in movies, examples where the detail of when the person passed, and it was very detailed, count number. But I don't think that's at all the case.
No, I think so. So if we talk specifically about like dying without a will, right? So let's talk about what happens if you die without a will. And so the first thing that happens is that nobody knows what to do. Everyone's looking, staring at each other. It's like, who's in charge here? What's happening? And then oftentimes when it's the parents have died without a will, then you've got adult siblings who are all maybe like looking at each other, who's doing something, or maybe all charging into the house to get the stuff that they think they deserve to get, right? Because mom promised me the painting above the mantelpiece, so I'm taking that. All right. So
100%.
that kind of stuff really does happen. So what happens is if you do have a will, you've named the person who's in charge. That person is responsible for securing all of the assets, making sure that it doesn't all start disappearing, and there's an inventory of everything that you had. Because the number of times where siblings, they got on great until the parent died and there was all of this stuff happened about the estate, and that stuff happened because the estate was.
You don't happen to live in California right now, do you? Are you watching? Are you stalking me? What you're saying right now is absolutely 100,000 billion million % true. Probably more often than anybody would like to admit.
We hear about it all the time, because what usually happens is that the estate is valuable. It's worth a lot of money, right? And then what happens is that siblings, one sibling's done really well for themselves. They've been lucky. They've had a great life. The other one struggled a little bit. Well, was that their fault that they struggled, or did they just have a bit of a run of bad luck, right? So, those siblings are then going to say, they're going to start fighting. And one of them who cared for the parents during their last 5 years, the other one didn't, they were nowhere to be seen for the last 5 years. So there's all of that antagonistic, infighting as well. So not having a will is just going to encourage or promote this idea of siblings fighting. So if you have a will, you've got it all in place, you've got someone in charge, and you've clearly determined who's going to receive something. And it happens all the time where siblings, they get to 50 years old and they've got on great, and then the parent dies, and now they don't talk to each other anymore because the parent never had a will, and they just fought over every last little nickel and dime.
That makes me think of this example I heard once. This example was used for a different reason, but if you take a jar full of red and black ants together, and they just are in there together, everything's calm and settled, and you shake that jar, they start attacking each other.
Oh, really?
What you just described are those ants, and they've been getting along just fine, but all of a sudden something happened, and something happened, and you know what I mean? And bam, it changed. That circumstance, well, that's an extreme case, but same thing.
And I think before, one last thing as well. I would say that you're writing your will not for your benefit. You don't gain anything from writing your will. Your will is for the benefit of everyone you're leaving behind. So, that's the only reason you're doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly the case. So I'm going to take this second now to jump on Raud here. I've had it up there a while because I really liked his comment. Excellent stream. Every minute is valuable. We usually get a couple hundred. We've had a couple thousand and some tech stuff that are really advertised a lot. But people come and go off shows. Literally from the first couple of minutes, remember I said it was rising, like 10 minutes in, we hit about this number, and it hasn't freaking changed.
No.
There's some important, there are people who know how important this is. And we stream all over the world. So you might get a call from Slaughterby. I just wanted to get that. A great show, great video, loving the energy. Thank you. Yeah. And excellent. Oh, wow. Oh, no, I went backward. No, that's another dude. Go ahead.
No, I think it's a pretty dry topic, right, Wills? It's, I think oftentimes when, I show up and say, hey, I'm going to be talking about wills, everyone's like, oh, God.
You're a salesman, dude. You're not just a businessman. you've made a, like you said, very dry subject, very interesting, and I don't want to say mind blowing, but every couple of minutes you're bringing up something that makes a freaking hell of a lot of sense that we
It does
don't think
touch.
about.
I mean, most families are touched by a will at some point, or the lack of a will at some point in their life. So, yeah, and probably half the people listening to this have a war story to tell about, the family who didn't have a will and the fallout from that. So it does touch a lot of, touch a lot of people, this topic.
It does, and it's and it touches people at personally and at a very personal time.
Yeah,
it's the best situation is tough to deal with, but you work through it, and you're keeping that legacy, however the stuff happens, but you're getting that at a time you've got to deal with, and the harder it is, or complicated, or like you said, doesn't exist, or look, I started talking and two people jumped off. I'm sorry. I really apologize, Tim. I didn't mean to. Oh, one got back. Okay. Good. That's a hard. I mean, the most difficult thing to do, the least that you ever know about, the thing that you least typically ever know about, at a time you've just been hit in the gut by a loved one passing, right?
Yeah.
That's piles of stuff.
So the interesting way of looking at this is writing your will. If you used an online service like ours, there are others, but if you used an online service, it's going to take you about 20 minutes. That's all it's going to do. It's going to take you. It really doesn't take very long to get your will all done and in place. The impact on your family of not taking that 20 minutes and paying that $50 is months and months and months of strife and anxiety and stress and fighting and all of the stuff that goes in there. It is never a plan to die without a will. It's always just a negligence, right? You say, my plan is to die without a will. That doesn't make sense for anybody, right? So if you just take that 20 minutes, and well, actually, you can talk about that as well. In terms of distributing your estate, every state has its own rules for how that's going to be distributed.
I was going to say that earlier. Yeah.
So,
and totally different.
And I don't think I've ever seen somebody write their will that exactly matches the way that the state would have distributed that estate. It doesn't make any sense most of the time, that intestate distribution, how it's all distributed. If you don't have a will, it's very convoluted. So it's never going to match what you wanted to do. So yeah, you can, if you take the 20 minutes to do it, it saves your family months of stress and strife. And the other thing is, some people say, I'm single, right? I don't have a family, so I'm not saving anybody from anything. And actually, if you're single, it's actually at least as important, because there's no obvious place where all of your stuff's going to go. So why don't you determine who's going to be receiving your thing? And if you don't have any family, why don't you decide which foundation, which charity, where you want that to go to? So it's an opportunity for you to do that too.
That's awesome, man. Hey, look, we're kind of wrapping up here a bit. I don't want to, but I also don't want to lose our little record here. I lost that one person. They've stayed away. Oh my God, they just came back, or somebody did. So
a funky internet.
They just had to go hit the loo or something. The what's coming in now is a whole bunch of smoke being blown up your dress. You've got a bunch of fans here. Seriously, you got some groupies, I think, starting to climb in. Great show, great video, loving the energy. Excellent stream. Every minute is valuable. And then this one here, love it. And this same gentleman. Thank you, Daniel. Loving the format. Please keep these coming. Really, Seems like to me it's a really dry subject, don't you? Right? I mean, Tim, do you read that in these words here? We might as well have been doing a stand-up routine here. Amazing guest and even better discussion.
Thank
Woo-hoo!
you. Thank you.
Yeah, very awesome, man. Very awesome. So what do you think? Oh, damn, I totally forgot. I've been really into this, and there's things that I need to do during the show. And I totally forgot to ask you, would you take your contact information? We have, they're starting to dive off again. I'm talking too much. I got to get through this. Put your contact information in there because inevitably there's going to be another 300, 400, 500, whatever, a bunch of people watching, because they couldn't see it live. You can only do it in the private chat, but I'll copy and paste it over into the comments, because if somebody asks me a question about this, I may screw it all. Likely would screw it all up. So I just, boom, they can go right to you, man. That's my job is rolling up here, rolling out. We're giving that information, but I'm not the smart one. You are. While I'm clicking this over. Oh no, you got too much. You got all sorts of shit going on there, brother. While you wrap up your thing and give us your diatribe, your final. Let's do this thing, brother. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to jump off for just a second.
Okay, so what I would say to anybody who's thinking about writing a will and thinking that maybe they've listened to this and thought I should probably get around to it, the one thing I would say is just get started, and you'll probably find you're done before you realized. And the number of people, if you look at reviews of our service, there's two things that happen. People say, if I'd known it was going to be this easy, I would have done it years ago, but I've been putting it off. And the other thing that people say is, I just have such peace of mind now. I know that I put this in place. It's a weight off my shoulders knowing that the loved ones are now taken care of. So have those two things in mind. It's easier than you think. And the feeling you're going to have at the end of it, putting this in place, is going to make you sleep easier.
All right, give everybody a big hi. Hang out with me, or hang out and wait for me in the green room if you got a couple of minutes. Sure. I'm going to close some stuff down here. We have a nice outro video, couple of 30 seconds. Okay. But give everybody a big wave. You got a whole bunch of fans here, brother.
Thank you so much.
You bet. I got you up here on the board, by the way. Nice. Everything look right?
Yep, that's great.
All right, brother. Talk to you in a sec.
All right, thank you.
You bet. All right. Well, producer Barbie and I were talking. As a matter of fact, I was like, hey, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. Hey, look, I really got to get in. The show's starting up pretty soon. And this is a tech thing, which really always fires me up because it's critical. It's important. And I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately because I'll wake up in the middle of the night, start thinking about things, and poof, just I'm there. And so this morning we were talking, and she's saying, man, you are just so manic. It's awesome. The energy. And I'm going, I have no idea where this comes from. This show is just, every time I turn the corner, and I've always been a curious guy. So I've always checked stuff out, and, I like that. I like to know not how things work, because I'm horrible with my hands. Don't ever ask me to build a chair or a desk or fix your car. I'd love to be able to. My dad did teach me how to change a tire. I know that, but I still rather have somebody else do it. But about everything else, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's very interesting. But here's the thing. Why people ask me continually, how do you keep the energy up show after show after show? By the way, I'm usually a bit misted. I'll use a girl's term, a little misted, a lot of energy burnt, a lot of, I would assume, calories burnt, but that's for a food show sometime. What's fascinating to me is this is almost like taking a shot of adrenaline every day, because as I said, I'm curious, and I love to find more out about things. But now, I mean, look at this. This was something you never think about, and it's so freaking interesting. Which last week, it wouldn't have been. I really appreciate, Tim, what you did here today was or is a wonderful thing, and guys, keep coming back. You can check this out anytime. Come onto the show. I get to do my review, so I get to watch it now. It's different when I get a different view than you guys do. And sometimes I don't, when I go through review, it's for, getting better and practicing just like anybody should. But at this point, I'm just having so much freaking fun. I can't slow down. I don't want to. I don't think it's a bad thing, but people always ask me, how do you keep up the energy for that? And that's how I do it. And, it's because of this show, Insights and Straight Talk. I'm your host, Rod Duff. And then, of course, the very famous and popular producer, Barbie. And I just, I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.